Okay, I think that looks like we should be ready. Morning, everybody. Welcome to the first of today's tracks in this room. My name's Simon Mcloughlin. I'm one of the directors and founders of an employer branding business called Creed Comms. This is Neil. Neil is head of resourcing for Places to People. You'll get to know Neil slightly better as we go through the presentation. And today what we want to talk about is employer branding in a complex, diverse business. Neil explained who Places for People are. And we wanted to share a case study and let Neil tell his story because it's quite different, it's quite unique. When you're building an employer brand, a lot of the time we're asked the question, well, it's going to be difficult for me because there are multiple brands in my business, there are multiple divisions in my business, there are multiple skill sets in my business. You've got the stakeholders that tell you it's different in Scotland, it's different in France, it's different in tech. How do you build a brand that works across all those different facets of an organisation? So that's what we wanted to share with you today. So I'm going to hand over to Neil. Introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. So as I say, Neil Pollington, I'm the head of recruitment at Place for People. I've got 18 years recruitment experience, but the majority of that time on the other side of the desk, on the dark side, that annoying side. And then more recently, probably over the last, 7 years. That's quite, on the internal side, many different roles from recruiter, partnering people with sales calls, through to systems work, through to managing, and then as I say, internal recruitment. That needs slightly updating, to be honest with you. I was just saying to Simon, 2 years ago, I was here where you guys were, starting this journey, I suppose, really thinking about we need to do something about our employer brand and what can we do and how should we do it, who should we talk to and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it was, no, probably possibly this room or possibly another one, but certainly in this building anyway. So, as you can see, I like cycling. Not sure how relevant that is. I actually quite like this picture because I also like craft beer, and that's also a couple of years old, and I don't look like that anymore. So, who are Place for People and why have I been picked to talk to you about branding in a diverse and complex business? So, we are one of the UK's largest placemaking organisations. Effectively, we're a property management, maintenance, regeneration business with a leisure business. Effectively, if someone wanted to build a small town, we can do it all from start to finish, pretty much. Manage properties for sale, maintain them, etc. So we've got a whole different range of businesses, all within the property sector. Our CEO likes to say that we're in more markets than Virgin. There's about 19 different trading businesses within the group, all pretty much doing something pretty different. Our vision is to create places that work for everyone. We were once a housing association, and we're now a much wider group. So we've been through a big cultural change away from a stereotypical housing association, he says, and I work there, but now we have got that sort of commercial heads and caring hearts, I guess really that mixture between the two, because some of our businesses are purely within the commercial sector and the private sector, and some of them are still very much within the social housing, as we now call it. We are very acquisitive. We bought 2 businesses last year, and we're still on acquisition trail and growing at a rate of knots. And as I mentioned before, the sort of commercial heads and caring hearts is sort of a sort of background to us, I guess, really. Again, just to give you a rough idea on size and scale, we've just brought out our new annual report, actually, so some of these have started to change. We now turn over about 140 million, about 13,000 employees, 4.5 billion, in assets under management, etc. So lots of other stats just to give you an idea on sort of size and scale with 120 leisure facilities. I think we've got about 250 different sites across the UK. So when I was sat here a couple of years ago, well, probably actually more like sort of 12 months ago, as this started to grow and gain momentum, what did we talk to Creed about, I guess, really? And what were the things that were sort of, on my mind, I guess, really, and why did we go on an employer brand journey? Effectively, in any large business, we wanted to unify a disparate employee base. We were finding that the message we got through from our engagement surveys, and actually that came through during the work that we did when we were discovering what our employer brand was about, was that people understood that they worked for a particular brand. So they worked for Places Leisure and worked in a leisure centre, but they had no idea what the rest of the group did or how what they did related to the rest of the group. So we wanted to connect people both across geography, through skill sets, but also around the group. We wanted a flexible brand. We needed something that would work from anything from a 17-year-old lifeguard just wanting a bit of pocket money, right the way through to white-collar construction, architects, fund managers, development managers. We've got care staff, contact centre staff, so a whole range at different education levels or qualification levels, right across the piece. At the same time this was happening, our marketing department were doing an uplift to the corporate brand. Weirdly enough, they had 3 pillars. One of them was around how did they do something about employees and engagement, but hadn't actually spoken to anyone or thought about it. Thanks, marketing. But they had come up with a new Wizzy website and whatnot. So I came along and said, I think I can solve pillar 3 for you, and introduced Simon. And also something that was future-proof. We needed something that was relevant, but also spoke to where we were going and how we were changing and how the business was moving forward. On my side, linking back to those really, I wanted obviously to build a positive employer reputation. Who doesn't? You wouldn't be in this room if you didn't want to. But also sort of slay those myths, I guess, really. So I'd speak to someone in the south who'd have no idea who we were, but I'd speak to someone in the north who went, oh, you're that housing association. But actually I was recruited for one of our commercial businesses. So the two things just didn't align. So we needed something to bring the stories together. We wanted to continue to build an internal reputation as a centre of excellence. As you will all know, we all need to prove our own relevance on a constant basis, it seems. So we wanted to continue that on, especially in a tightening market. It's a real struggle for talent out there, as you all know. So I wanted to continue to have something to back that up. Nothing's mandated in our business, so no one has to use me. So there was that whole thing of ensuring that we created something that allowed us to go out to different parts of the business to ensure that they were using us rather than agencies or whatever the case may be. And again, usual thing really, target hard to reach talent, build talent pools, ensure that, we were starting to become an employer of choice, I guess, really, that lovely phrase, within the property sector. But also as well, and I suppose more than anything, what we didn't want to do was have, we're incredibly fast moving and we needed something that we could just reach down and grab at any point in time. What we didn't want to do is turn this into a massive industry whereby a manager would come to us and say, oh, I want to recruit X. And then we have to go off and put a big marketing plan together and then get marketing to go and get some photography because recruitment, as you all know, happens like that. You need to get on it straight away. So effectively, we wanted to create something that allowed us to literally have the assets, literally have the collateral, but have the full control over it. So we weren't having to go to a third party or have to go to our marketing department on a constant basis so that we had those things that we could grab. So that's, I suppose, one of the reasons why I went to Creed. I'll pass you back to Sam.
Thanks, Neil. So you can see it's quite an extreme challenge in terms of trying to build something that would work equally well across all those different audiences. So our approach was to think about how we could create a brand that passed what we call the employer brand stress tests. So we wanted to do some research, and the research at that stage you had about 11,000 employees. That's how acquisitive and how growth driven you are. So that, is a fairly high representation of the people. People really got involved. People really wanted to participate in this process. And I think that helped us make sure that what we were building was authentic, because we engaged with people and we asked them how they felt about this as an organisation, what made it different and special. But an employer brand doesn't exist in a vacuum. You are in very, very competitive markets. So you need to be clear that not only are you making promises that are authentic, but also that differentiate you from your competitors, your talent competitors, whoever they may be. So we wanted to make sure that it was authentic and differentiating, but also that's one of these first 3 is about making sure it's fit for purpose, because in an organisation that's as fast changing as Neil's described, we wanted to make sure that it worked for Neil, but also worked for the future, so that if an employer brand is too much rooted in the current employee experience, it doesn't necessarily give it the ability to grow and deliver the people the organisation is going to need for its future. So we spent a lot of time talking to the organisational leadership as to where the organisation was going, so that we could make sure this attracted and retained and harnessed the talent that was going to keep their customer promise and deliver their growth goals. It had to be universal. It had to work not just across all the different audiences, but through the whole employee life cycle as well. So when Neil's going to talk about how he and his team have brought it to life, it's equally about internal activation as it is about external activation. And that we then built work streams, because employer brand should not rest entirely on your shoulders. It touches employees through from when they first consider joining you, right through to when they're an alumni. And the best way of building an employer brand is to get the different stakeholders within the organisation to develop their own work streams so that they are committing and pledging how they're going to bring the employer brand to life through their particular work stream. So we wanted to do that as well. So the first thing we did was create a people deal. And a people deal is the psychological contract between employer and employee. It's that mutual handshake. It's what we call the give and the get. So that everybody knows before they join and when they're working what they can expect from one another. So it was about creating that people deal, but then creating some flexible promises, because in all organisations you need to have flexible people promises. That's what people might refer to as the EVP or the EVPs. But you've got to be able to dial them up and dial them down depending on who you're speaking to, dependent upon what the skill sets are, dependent upon where they are in the journey as well. Because why people join organisations and why people stay at organisations can be two very different reasons. People often join for what we call logic, but then stay for the magic. They stay for the emotional reasons as well. And that was quite interesting, actually, with Places for People, because you would think with a housing association that it's going to be a lot about the emotional side of things, the social connection. But actually, with Places for People, as you'll see, there's also about the logical connection as to what it can do for you as an employee, as opposed to what you can do for society. And as Neil said, it also had to reflect these unifying behaviours. A lot of work had been done to create these behaviours, so it needed to really demonstrate those behaviours. And what we found through all the research that we did was that Places for People was, in our opinion, and certainly in their opinion, a unique organisation. It looked at things differently because it had this commercial head and caring heart. It was able to do things in a very different way. It was able to both deliver growth and security for employees, but at the same time have a real social purpose, have a real meaningful and purposeful outcome. And that duality needed to be reflected in the brand. So this way of looking at things, as you'll see, is reflected in the actual brand. So if my creative director was here today, this is where I'd be waxing lyrical about this beautiful work, because it is quite beautiful. And the people deal and the tagline and the essence of this brand is, this is a workplace like no other. And why is it a workplace like no other? Because it's a place for jump right in people. And what we did was we built a brand with this flexibility, as you can see through here. It's not just a place for jump right in people, it's the place for changing lives people. It's the place for ambitious people. And as you can see, all the photography is done from a unique perspective, a different angle. It's got the flexibility where Neil just literally takes a brief from a recruiter and says, right, tell me about the kind of person you're looking to engage with, from a hiring manager rather. Tell me about the kind of person, and that almost writes the headline for you. It's a place for determined people. And we wanted to bring it to life through a video. And this video, admittedly, hands up, Neil and I would say, it's a bit too long. And it's a bit too long because everybody got involved with this video. And everybody wanted it. And even when we thought we'd finished, the HRD said, what about, I can't remember, but and we actually ended up saying no. It's not often you say no to your HRD, but we'd said yes that frequently. We were all right saying no this time. So it's a bit long, but it's long because it needs to talk to all the different audiences. It's long because it needs to get across quite a complex set of messages in quite an impactful way. But what we did do is we cut it down a lot for social media. So there's lots and lots of subcuts for social media. We built an internal version and an external version as well. And it's really celebrating that unique scale and the way in which Places for People looks at work. So hopefully the sound is not going to blast your ears.
We're placemakers all of us.
Together we're proud to create places for people.
Building sustainable communities that meet the needs of everyone today and tomorrow.
Our workplace is the community.
It's where we provide affordable housing,
Manage properties,
leisure centres to stay healthy,
beds for homeless people,
and accommodation for students.
A place for everyone to call home.
A workplace like no other where we all share the same spirit values.
we're a mix of friendly,
Can-do.
Have a brew and get things done people.
We push ourselves to perform at our very best and look at new ways to do things even better.
With a place for ambitious people and the ones who want to make a difference every day.
We think creatively and commercially to change people's lives.
we offer exciting career development across our diverse pioneering business.
And our boundless ambition gives you all the challenge you could wish for.
above all, we're a team that cares about our customers,
Our places.
And each other.
Everything we do, from building homes
to helping people live independently.
Is changing lives.
Here you can aim higher and jump right in.
Curious minds and bright ideas will be listened to.
And you'll be trusted to do the right thing and always do your best.
Every day at Places for People, we work together up and down the country in all kinds of roles to make a real difference.
We click, we hammer, we knock and we move.
All to the beat of the same drum.
to create better communities with heart and soul.
We're ever changing and have even bigger plans for the future.
And it's all thanks to our talented people who make everything possible. The best is yet to come.
Are you ready to play your part in a workplace like no other?
So, as part of that, that's a nice set piece video, loads of different cut downs, loads of different versions, but Neil also got a what we call his DIY toolkit, so it can react really quickly to those pretty much last minute requests. So within that, there were over 100 employee images, there was over 50 written descriptor headlines, and you know what, the team have they really understand the brand that we've built together, and they're able to really take it onto new levels and just do things with it. Without any reference to us, it's their brand, we've built it for them, they come back to us when they need help, but they don't need us. And that's really quite a nice place for us. That tells us we've done our job right. So here's a few examples of it used in different areas. You can see there's a slight sub-brand getting over that leisure brand. Leisure uses orange, so it works across all the different brands within all the different divisions. And it's brought to life through social media, a whole set of different things. And Neil, do you want to talk through a couple of examples of where you've really used it to good effect?
Yeah, so I suppose the start of this, we were quite lucky in the fact that obviously we had a huge amount of sort of senior management buy-in because they've been involved in the process, we will come on to a little bit later on. So almost our first deployment was an executive hire, which again, had we gone down the headhunting route would have cost stupid money. So we didn't, and went out to market ourselves using all the imagery, using the video, putting a microsite together. We created a pack for any executive who was looking to join us, which obviously included all the usual stuff for JD and all that kind of thing. But again, we weaved in the imagery, we weaved in the tone of voice to ensure that we were obviously selecting the right person, but we were able to bring this to life. And throughout the entire process, and certainly the interviews when they came face to face with our CEO, all bar one commented voluntarily. Don't have the other one, but we didn't recruit that person anyway. But the all bar one had commented about how professional, interesting, and engaging the process had been, and the information that had come through, which again was on my side is a great win when you've persuaded them, because that was the first exec hire we've done directly. All previous ones were done via exec headhunters, etc. So it was a big win for us, and we deployed that in. As you can see, there was an advert in the Times. We used some targeting advertising on LinkedIn, again using all this imagery. So it really gave us the collateral and give us the confidence to go out and really demonstrate who we were with the backing of the collateral that we created. On other sides, again, it gives us, what's allowed us to do more than anything is really go out and shout about who we are. Prior to this, literally, we were just writing, we are looking for a plumber, on Facebook or on LinkedIn. I think I took an image off Google Images once, and marketing shouted at me. So I really was at a point where I was thinking we definitely need to get some collateral. We used that across, usual channel, LinkedIn, Facebook. We've done a little bit on Twitter as well. But you can see how it can be deployed across the piece. The biggest thing, though, and probably the thing that everyone in this room is you're probably more bothered about that part, but the other part of any employer brand is the internal side. And what we wanted to make sure, I think Simon talked about it earlier on, which was that this brand had to be authentic. And this was this next bit was the scary bit, because this bit's easy and great. We all know what to do. We all know how to talk to an audience and highlight the right things to people when we're going out and attracting them. But did it resonate correctly with the internal audience? We did a soft launch when we launched the external market to ensure the managers knew what we were doing. And then a few weeks later, we did an internal launch. We launched the video that you've just seen, but it had a slightly different cut, and some of the wording was different to speak to our existing staff. But we also then did a full internal launch. So we created a microsite on our intranet, which had all the information through about what we were doing and why we felt this was a workplace like no other. We created some banners that went into all our main sites. We then created, I think we had 24 word boards with words on, and then we got people to, as you'll see, take photographs of themselves with all the different words that they felt spoke to them around what they're doing. And then on the back of that, we also created a workplace like no other competition. So we asked people to write in about why they felt their workplace was a workplace like no other. And there was a competition, and they won £500 worth of stuff for their office, etc. But the engagement level was huge. The number of photographs that we've now got of just internal staff that we can now theoretically use if we wish to. But just the engagement right across the piece. And what was really heartening was a number of these brands are some of the newer ones. So this lot somewhere, one of them, the one on the right is from our Derwent FM, which is one of our newer businesses. So we got that inclusion and that involvement, engagement right from the off, which showed that what we'd done had struck a chord and was felt to be authentic. On my side, as I think I mentioned before, I was here 2 years ago, so this has been one hell of a journey. And we launched properly in May. The first 12 months, there was lots of me talking to internal stakeholders and getting budget and shouting at marketing because they didn't understand what EVP meant and things like that. So, but the work really took off probably about 15 months ago or so. Yeah, that's when the work really started. So, it has been a bit of a labour of love. Perseverance has been key. We've had many bumps in the road. Stakeholders pop up from everywhere. I think Simon was mentioning about the video. Yeah, someone from environmental said, well, this video hasn't got anything about our environmental and sustainability. It's like, it's an employer brand video. We'll cover that some other time. It's already gone it's already too long. So, yeah, loads of people came to the fore. And initially, you had that thing where people were a bit like, well, what's this money that recruitment want to spend or marketing want to spend? But actually, as we got further and further through the process, everybody wanted it, to the point where when we'd done the photo shoot and before we'd launched, I had an email. I had 6 emails from 6 different departments asking me for the photography of their staff so they could use it in some other thing they were doing. I again had to say no because we need to be embargoed until we actually launch the thing that we paid for. External activation is more straightforward than internal. So again, if you're all recruiters, yeah, that's great. If you need to sell it to internal HR or marketing, then that is the bigger thing. It does take a bit more time and a bit more thought, and you do need to make sure that it's authentic and everyone's been involved. Simon and Di won the day. Yeah, we just had to keep pushing forward. I suppose the other big thing as well is that HR and resourcing metrics don't tell the whole story. We're in a fairly privileged position that our direct fill rate's about 98%. We've only used agencies about 2% over the last couple of years, which has been really, really tough. But that metric hasn't really moved very much, but the amount of work and the amount of hours and stress and focus that the team have had to do to keep it at that level in a tightening market has been a nightmare. And that's so sometimes, I had certain directors saying, yeah, but your agency use is minimal. Why do we need to do this employer brand thing? And, our time to hire is pretty good. Why do we need to do this employer brand thing? But there's a lot of things that were masking it. And for me, and I may come on to this depending on when there's a question or not, but for me, not having an employer brand and not having this collateral just puts you behind, because in the best in the world, everyone else is doing it. You've effectively got to get on this journey, because otherwise you have got nothing. Otherwise, the posts that you're putting out literally are, I'm looking for a plumber based in London, paying X, and it's not incredibly engaging. I suppose the other big thing is obviously is really to understand your priorities. You know, what are the real sort of, you know, burning platforms? Who else can you get involved in? I say I was lucky because marketing were upgrading our brand and hadn't given any thought to employee engagement. So I was able to come along and say, well, I want to do this thing for external hiring, and I think we can then build it in. Well, we should be building into the internal hiring. But for you guys, if you are looking to build that business case, understanding where the priorities are, what your priorities may be, but also what the business's priorities are, is the biggest way to get the buy-in from the stakeholders. I'll pass to Simon.
So, leave you with a few questions and a possible way of answering those questions. Do we know what our employer brand priorities are? Do we know how powerful your current brand is? Because even if you haven't started on this journey, you have an employer brand, you have an employer reputation. People are talking about you, probably right now. Get involved in the conversation and try and influence those conversations. How do you compare to other people? How should you measure a brand's performance, and what's your brand's particular potential? In other words, we'd like to say, and this is not a picture of me on my holidays, by the way, it's too much hair. I do look like that on the deck chair, which is not enough hair. Is your employer brand hot or not? Is it an eagle or a turkey? Is it a turn on? Is it a turn off? Is it sink or swim? Because we would like to help you answer those questions, because for too long we think, as Neil said, if you've got a book on your chair, it says every day is a school day. That's one of our values. And we sat down and pondered this for about the last 18 months and thought, the metrics that people are using to identify whether or not their brand is effective are the old metrics that you use to determine whether or not you're an effective recruiter or you're an effective internal comms, you're an effective L&D. There are no actual specific employer brand metrics, and we wanted to change that. So we've started on our journey to try and change that. And our first iteration, and we want you to get involved and help us improve this, is an employer brand audit to help you identify exactly how strong your current brand is. So, the employer brand audit is free, it's confidential, it's a self-diagnostic tool. It'll take you about 10 to 15 minutes. Please don't do it, though, at your desk. Try and get away from your desk. Try and get away from the day-to-day distractions. And it gives you a series of scores. The report looks a little bit like that on the right-hand side. It gives you a series of scores and some food for thought and about how well defined and how well activated and how well deployed your current employer brand is. And as we were doing this, we were engaged with a certain number of people, not our clients actually. We deliberately decided not to engage with our clients because we wanted to be outside of our thinking. So Neil hasn't taken this audit yet. Hopefully he will do this afternoon now that it's been launched. Because it's there to give some quantifiable metrics. We want you to be able to measure where you are today, because then that also enables you to benchmark yourself against where everybody else is, against the average. And that then helps you think, well, you know, this is where we are. Is that good? That's the first question we get asked on every metric. Is, well, how does that compare to everybody else? So we've put a benchmark in there. But it'll help you identify your priorities, because employer branding is a journey, and you will all start from different points. And quite often, organisations will think employer branding is a big, scary thing. It doesn't have to be a big and scary thing. You can take bite-sized chunks out of employer branding. And this will help you identify what some of those bite-sized chunks should be. It'll also help you measure progress, because keep taking it over time. We recommend probably every 6 months, go back to it, reflect again, and think, how have I changed? Have I changed? Hopefully, how have I improved? It'll also help you build that business case, because that's another question we're often asked. How do I build a business case? Well, by benchmarking yourself against other people, then you're able to build that business case. But also by having multiple people take it within the organisation, we think it will promote interesting conversations about why colleague X has a grade of 63% and colleague Y has a grade of 50%. And I know one particular person in the room, Tina, where are you? You took it the other day and you had a score, a range of 20, 30%. So an interesting conversation for Tina and her organisation to have now around, you know, why have we all got these different views of our employer brand and what we're going to do. Obviously, we'd be delighted to give you a second opinion if you wish about what are some of the things you can do. And as I said, it's confidential and free. So we believe in building employer brands for people to believe in, and we think one of the first steps you can do to take that is to take the employer brand audit. It's at employerbrandaudit.co.uk. There are some lovely flyers of me on my deck chair at our stand, which is just on the way in or out, depending on that. Come and see us, talk to us about it, but please take the audit, see what you get.